Hey guys, welcome back to the channel for Chapter 5 in my look at my custom Combiner War styled Liokaiser. And this time around we are going to round out the Limbots with this guy. It is the other arm of Liokaiser. It is the character known in the box set as Fellbat, though many more fans are going to know him by his actual name, Hellbat. And while there wasn't much, if anything, that I did to the actual robot itself, I did take the liberty of giving him his Breastmaster partner, that being Komoribreast, the bat guy. We're going to look at both of these lads in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, that's right, hit that notification bell because it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, Transformers, Collectors, and the Autobot family, and have a look for me everywhere across social media. All those links are in the description, but I'm sure you know that by now. And this is Fellbat. I'm going to call him Hellbat, much like I did when we looked at Iron Bison, who by rights is Kill Bison. And again, this is one of those cases where he's fine. Like, it was a reuse of the Combiner War Skydive mold, which I wasn't a particularly huge fan of. There's other ones I would have preferred that they used for this guy, but nevertheless, this is what they used. And he works out pretty well. A couple of minor paint things that could have been a little more animation accurate, but as with all these guys, he was missing his breast partner. In this case, the chest piece known as Komoribreast. I don't know if Komori is a Japanese word for bat, or I don't know where Komori comes from, and I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing it right if I'm being honest. And the ideal use for this, it's funny, fun fact, when I did this custom, at first I used a version of the Siege Laserbeak to make the chest piece, and it was all right, but it still didn't look quite right. This looks far more accurate. This is one that I talked about that I used as a custom a little while ago. This is Siege Ratbat. Anyway, without any further ado, let's head over to the table and very quickly take a look at both of these guys. And if you've been following along, we are of course in Chapter 5, and much like we did with Skyhawk, we're going to start off with Fellbat, or Hellbat if you will, in his most useless of modes, that being leg mode. Why do I say useless? It's not because it's a bad mode. It's actually a pretty great mode. He pulls off a good leg. Skydive made a good leg, and this is, of course, based on the Skydive mold. Now, I looked at Skydive a long time ago, man, in episode 35. Had no idea what I was doing. Not that I really do now, but extra didn't know what I was doing then. So we've seen the conversions, and I think we all know how these planes convert for Combiner Wars, but he was never a leg on Liokaiser, and as such, I don't really ever intend to use him as a leg. This is the one and only time that anyone is likely to see him in this mode, at least from me. Also attached here, we do have a little bit of extra armor with his partner, that being Komoribreast, who is essentially like a whitish color bat. In case you're interested, here's that other hand-foot piece. So we have 4 of them all together, 1 for each Limbot within this box set. And just as I showed 2 nicely molded black blasters when I looked at Skyhawk, there are also 2 of these. Presumably it should be 1 for each Limbot, but I put both of them with Hellbat in this case. Of course, it should be noted that it's pretty hollow underneath, but that's fine. We just don't look down there, man. And yes, here indeed we have Komoribreast as well as the 2 blasters attached to the plain mode of Hellbat. Of course, Hellbat was almost usurped from his position in the combined mode and from the team by Death Cobra. I don't have a Death Cobra custom. A lot of people have suggested that it might be possible to do one with the Combiner Wars Alpha Bravo. I tend to agree with you. I think that would be a great mold for it. I don't happen to have a spare Alpha Bravo, but I do think that that would work great for it. That being said, I'm not too tore up about it because honestly, Death Cobra really just stopped by for a cup of coffee and then he was sort of gone again. The guy who sort of kept his position was in fact Hellbat, so I'm cool with having this guy still be part of the Combiner team. I like this. It's a nice reuse of that skydive mold, and it has a ton of nice paint. Of course, that being said, we should take a look at the little breastplate, the little chest master, whatever you want to call them, before we look at the robot mode and the interconnectivity between the two. And part of the reason that showing off this custom took so long is because naturally the best fit for this guy is going to, of course, be Siege Rat Bat. And this one is pretty extensively painted. There's a mix of gloss white and gray that makes up his, we'll say, main body here. The wings, they open out nicely. The little feet, they can fold down nicely. And we'll even bring the head a little forward there. And we'll just stand the guy up, if I can get him to stand up. Hold on. Usually he does stand pretty well. I don't know why he's not wanting to do it here now. There. Now the fun fact here is that originally I was going to use yet another laser beak. I even had the paint done. I had the custom finished. And my plan was to have that laser beak basically stand upright and have its wings kind of mimic the wings of a bat. But the problem there was that the head wasn't correct. And then, to my pleasant surprise, we had Rat Bat announced, and I thought to myself, that will be perfect for what I need. So I waited. What did I do with that other laser beak? Well, if you have been around the channel for some time and you watched my 35th anniversary Sound Blaster or Logos Prime review, then you know that I had a version of Hell Buzzsaw there. And honestly, that was the exact same mold that originally was painted in this color scheme to be used with Hellbat. Kind of funny that he went from being used with Hellbat to becoming Hell Buzzsaw. When this was released, I thought it was perfect, even though it was going to require an extensive repaint. So, as I stated, I used a mix of gloss white and actually graphite gray to get the most of the coloring here on the feet and on the wings and on the head. I used a toothpick and red to kind of recolor the eyes. And then the body is a mix of a shiny indigo blue along with a little bit of a sky blue, and that's a very close match to what we have with Hellbat himself, which is a beautiful deep blue but kind of a weird color to match. In terms of color here, this is fairly accurate now. Maybe a little bit more blue. I did manage to paint the blue around the Decepticon symbol on his chest. That was no easy feat, let me tell you. A very, very fine tipped brush was used. And yeah, like I think now it's, I don't know, let's say a solid 8, I guess. Maybe a solid 9. Solid 9 is what we'll say. And the conversion is all right. He doesn't make the best cassette in the world, but he doesn't really need to now. I wish his face hid better. I said that before when I looked at him. The articulation, like, I guess it's fine for a bat, but he's not the most stable to stand up. Overall, he's probably a 5. It's not particularly great, but it's going to fill the need for what I need it for. So it's definitely not going to be the strength out of this duo. He's about a 5. I do definitely think, though, that both of these lads look very nice together. Lot of paint on Hellbat. Again, I used the rotary tool to make the hole in his combiner peg in his chest. If we kind of refer back to Skydive, I said there that the transformation overall for Skydive, it was about an 8. It's still about an 8 here. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I wish that this shoulder over here locked in a bit better in robot mode. In terms of the articulation, I'd said it was a 9. Again, I'm going to say it's an 8 here because it'd be nice if you had ankle tilt and wrist swivel. In terms of the coloration, well, it's largely accurate to Hellbat. As a matter of fact, really the only thing that's wrong is the white-ish ears on the head, or grayish ears. They should also be blue, just like the rest of the top of his crown is blue. So I'm going to say that's overall a 9. So, How well does the little partner interact here on the chest? Quite well, actually. I love the look of this, just so we're clear about that. I think that if you look at the way he's supposed to look with his chest partner on, this is largely accurate. As a matter of fact, I would call it a 9.9 for accuracy when they're together here. The only thing not right is the aforementioned earpieces, so to speak. In terms of the articulation, well, this is why I waited to sort of show it now, because I wanted to show it once we had the chest attached, so you could see that it doesn't hinder anything. So the head, it can go left, right, look up, down a little bit. The arms, they can go all the way around, go out to the side, elbow, bicep swivel, no wrist unfortunately. We do have a waist, we do have legs forward, back, thigh swivel, knee to 90 degrees. So the chest minion gets in the way of absolutely, positively nothing. I love that. When we put the two together, saying that overall, Hellbat is about an 8, saying overall that his partner, unfortunately because of his functionality, is only about a 5 or so. Together, these guys should be about a 6.5. But, here's the thing, when you actually put them together like this, I think it works out so well that it honestly, it might be the best interaction between a breastmaster and their partner that I've shown yet, as we've gone through the numerous chapters of the Limbot so far. So I'm going to say overall, honestly, it's about a 7.5. The only reason I say 7.5 instead of 8 like Guy is because this shoulder doesn't like to exactly lock in as nicely as I wish it did. And so here, of course, we have 4 of the 6 members of this team with their chest minion partners, and I love this. To me, this looks more correct, more accurate than it did before. Now, to be fair, the 4 deluxes are really just the stock deluxes that came in a package. The custom work done here is with their little chest partners. And you will notice that we have 2 Ravages used, and we have a laser beak, and we have a Ratbat used. The other laser beak that would go with the second Ravage that's used here has been used by me to make Hell Buzzsaw to go with Logos Prime. So I actually got great use out of these little molds as characters other than the intended ones, and I love that. I love that versatility, even though the Ravage one's not very good and was on my top 10 worst list. Nevertheless, it serves the purpose here for what it needs to be. And that only leaves the torso, and we're not going to use Dezaris or Death Source as the torso. I mentioned that in chapter 1 if you were paying attention. No. We're actually going to do Jalguara and Leozak. To a degree anyway. You'll see what I mean, but those 2 are definitely the most extensive of our customs, and they will help to round out this team of proper 6 with those chest minions. In terms of Hellbat and Komoribreast, well, like I said, overall, a 7.5. Guy an 8, the other 2 at 8.5 overall. That's sort of where we're at. Not bad. Fairly strong set at this point. Let's see how that torso works out. And here we are once again, and here they are. And I think that using Ratbat was brilliant here. Matching the blue was the hardest part. This is sort of a mix of a shiny indigo along with a sky blue, and it worked pretty well overall. It did take several coats of paint to cover it. The grayish color is a mix of white and graphite. And again, it took several coats, several thin coats, and I'd done a base of silver first, so if the gray didn't quite cover everything, especially on the hinges, at least the silver is there to cover it, so we don't see purple, right? I'm glad that I decided to use Ratbat here instead of the Laserbeak mold. The Laserbeak mold was fine, but the head obviously was off. This is much better for that character. Works great as Ratbat too. But even when it's folded up here on his chest, this looks the way the chest piece is basically supposed to look, except for Ratbat's head sticking out. In terms of Hellbat, himself here, we should have more blue down on his lower abdomen pelvis area, and the little bat ear pieces on the side of his head, they should also be blue. There are very minor gripes, and if you know the character, like, you know, this guy still has a ton of paint, and he's done nicely. I wish that this shoulder over here locked in a little bit better, but again, it's that Combiner Wars mold. They are only so perfect. Nevertheless, he makes a pretty dandy arm. Now, since this is a story with chapters, we have looked at the way that Liokaiser, whatever you want to call him, comes in a package. And I said then that, hey, it needs a lot of work. Then we looked at the two leg bots, and I said, hey, they're pretty acceptable. Granted, I do wish that we had a double barrel on Kill Bison. And granted, it'd be nice if those two lower legs could be put on the side as they're supposed to be instead of facing forward, and still retain the knee. And granted, they too were missing their breast partners, though that's been rectified. Then we move to both arms, and both arms work out all right, as well as these planes are for arms, and they're pretty good. And we've made both Hawk Breast and now Komoribreast. I think in terms of the 4 limb bots, we're pretty much set, but we need to deal with the elephant in the room next. And the elephant in the room is the torso. The torso was Dezaurus, or Deathsaurus. That is unacceptable to me. He is kind of his own enigma, so we're going to abandon him. We'll talk about him another time. That means we need a torso. It's not any good to have 4 bots and no torso. And we know traditionally the torso was made up of 2 characters. So how am I going to find my way around that? Well, now we get into the real meat and depth of the custom, because we do have a custom Jaguar and a custom Leozak to come up. The 4 limb bots might be out of the way, but we're going to continue on with chapter 6 and dig into the real meat of this custom with the torso bots next. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. Let me know what you think about this guy and all of the limb bots. You know that I appreciate you coming by and giving me some of your extremely valuable time. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, there is a link down in the description. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. It helps me out so very, very much. Don't forget that somehow, some way, each and every day you do make a difference. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together, either in the live streams, at the stop motion premieres, or the old-fashioned way for chapter 6 this time around, right here inside the videos.